Hello, hello. Thank you everybody for being here today. Today we're lucky enough to get to speak with Ryan Tim Morris, author of The Magical Realism, Contemporary, just kind of a blend of all. This never happened. And I know we were just saying this off camera, but there's something to be said about just the level and the yeah, I mean frankly, the level of literature you had in this. I feel like the bar it just gets raised every single month. And there was something about the story that just had me sucked in from the beginning, whether it was the themes, because you're touching on very heavy topics of existentialism, of purpose, and at the same time you have a lot of grieving and death, and there's such heavy topics in such an accessible story that it just obviously you have some twists and turns that take place, but there was something about it that was really, really hard to put down. And just hats off to you because I still like that. We'll get into it, but Steve's got notes. I've got notes. It's just so it's such exciting times ahead. So hats off
Oh,
to
well,
you.
thank you for that.
So my thinking, Ryan, was
Just
so I
go for
should
it.
specify between Ryan or Ryan Tim Morris. My thinking, R. Tim Morris, was that I would go through the notes that I took as I wrote this and leave
Mhm.
space for you to interject when you've got something to add to it,
All right,
Okay.
if that would suit you. So
for sure.
you can see on my notes, it starts off all in kind of smaller case, which is how I usually take notes. And near the end of the notes and the end of the novel, everything's in capital, like caps lock, which denotes that I was very excited. This was one of those ones where everything it just kept building on the themes that it was building up.
Yeah.
It opens with a second person intro. Always a
Mm.
brave choice. I love to see second person. There was a real sense of noir to it at
Hmm.
first. And as soon as I realized that the main character had face blindness, I was
Hmm.
like, okay, this is going to be
I'm in.
interesting. Yeah. I got a lot initially about memory and experience and how it changes us and makes
Hmm.
us family related mystery. I wrote, why does this feel like American Psycho if Patrick Bateman was horribly depressed and trapped in his own cycles of self destruction?
Yeah.
And then I was curious initially as I noticed that the chapter and page break dots were changing.
Hmm.
I wrote, does that mean something?
Yeah, I mean, there is a point in the novel where it's a really small, brief point, but there's a point where the
Mhm.
character talks about how when he was younger, he created his own kind of numerical listing system that's similar to Roman numerals, but it uses circles instead of more linear lines. And I thought it was a late change, but I thought that'd be cool to actually, yeah, the chapter titles, that number system.
No, I
That's really cool.
really enjoyed that because I remember getting like trying to figure out what the puzzle was
Right.
throughout and then
Mhm.
getting two-thirds into the novel and like catching that sentence and being like,
Mhm.
oh, it's all come together. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed
If
that.
if as a reader you go, okay, if this was a Roman numeral system, how does his epic system work?
Mm.
And it's basically the same thing. So it's not too hard to unlock, but it looks cool. I love the circle.
I quite enjoyed it. I think anything that makes you like what do you call it, flip back through and like,
Mhm.
rewind almost
Yeah.
is always a really powerful tool in writing.
Yeah.
Mhm. I also immediately after that, and you can see later in my notes where I've
Mhm.
realized that this is the epic system that he's using for the chapter breaks, and I've wrote, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Uh, I've written, it's really drenched in a kind of grey Americana that makes me curious if you lived in Coney or something. Like, where does this all come from?
I ever since I was a little kid, I live in Vancouver in Canada, so opposite coasts. But ever since I was a kid, I've just been obsessed with New York. I've just loved New York.
Mhm.
Reading Spider-Man comics as a kid, I just
Oh,
love
yeah.
that kind of when he gets into the gritty alleyways and or when he's swinging over like Brooklyn. I've just loved it, and so I've managed to trip out there 4 times now.
Nice.
I haven't been out there since 2007,
Mhm.
which was quite a while before I even thought of this book. So, um, yeah, there's a familiarity there. I mean, I'm really, I love getting in there on like Google Maps and just like Street View and just kind of going around. And I plot out a lot of my books through systems like that. If I can't go there
That's
physically,
cool.
then I pop in online and yeah. So no, I've never lived in Coney Island, but it's part of that was influenced by Requiem for a Dream, the Darren
Oh
Aronofsky
yeah, yeah.
movie, because
Yep.
that takes place in Coney Island, and it just had this really kind of dirty, kind of
Mhm.
grimy, just hot and a bit noirish as well. And I just
Yeah.
wanted to incorporate that into mine.
I thought it really took me there. Like I'm reading ahead in my notes here, and the way that the heat drives the tension in that
Hmm.
early kind of chapter,
Hmm.
it was so evocative that just reading that in my notes, I can go back there and I remember what it was like reading it, that
Right.
vibe that I got from it. And I know if I read something where the author's made, I'm assuming a deliberate choice, like I'm
Yeah.
going to use the heat to amp up the kind of uncomfort or the
Yeah.
discomfort that the reader and the character feels. I know that I'm reading something good if someone's
Yeah.
making deliberate artistic decisions like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much everything in this book was a deliberate choice, and
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah.
exciting.
so we play a game where I'll ask authors, usually at the end of an interview, I'll have a little
Mm.
list of things and I'll ask them if that was deliberate, little things that I noticed. I've got a
Right.
lot of them,
Yeah.
so it's good to know that most of them were. Here's one. Was Kerrigan a StarCraft reference? Are you a StarCraft player?
I'm not a StarCraft player. No, it's funny because I haven't read this book in a long. It's been a long time. I
Mhm.
published it in 2017
Oh
with a
wow,
small
yeah.
press publisher, and then they folded 3 months after it came out. So I still retained all the rights.
Mhm.
And I had written 4 books, and I decided to just self-publish them all under my own imprint in 2019,
Mhm.
Yep.
um, which is the last time I probably read it. But I was just flipping through a little bit of it this morning because I'm like, I should probably be a little bit more familiar with what's going on in my own book. And I did
Yeah.
read that scene with Kerrigan, and I had the
Mhm.
same thought of I don't remember where that name came from. So it just kind of was just like, is it a first name? Is it a last name? It just was another little detail that could make the whole story a little off kilter. Like
Mhm.
everything you can question is a good thing. So down to the names of characters too. So no, not a StarCraft reference.
There was another little note that I made, which was that I noticed the tense switch from chapter one to chapter two. And I love playing about with tenses in my own right, and I wish more people did it. So I made
Hmm.
a little note that said, I hope this becomes relevant later. And you can see at the end of my notes, I'm like, ooh,
Oh,
there it is. It's a long way to wait for a payoff. I was curious if you
yeah.
went back and changed that after the fact.
Like as far as the point of view, the
Yes,
second
the
person.
POV, sorry, the tense switch, second person intro, and then it switches POV,
Okay.
and then I think there was also a tense switch, but I think it's because it was nested, almost like a framing device.
Yeah, I think most of the story takes place in present tense, but that very beginning, there's just a little bit of his flashback to that morning with
That's
that
it. Yeah, this
Kerrigan
morning, for
character.
instance.
So it was
Yeah.
a little bit of a past tense, but I tried to catch that all when I re-edited it, and I don't like it when it hops around
Mhm.
unnecessarily. So I don't think there was a major reason for tense changing at the beginning, but if it threw you off, then I guess that worked for you. Um,
But
yeah.
the POV switch was very deliberate.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
I had originally the book is written in second person POV, which is
Mhm.
odd. But I had originally written it in first person.
Yep.
Um, and it just felt almost too personal, and like we were in our main character's head more than I wanted to be.
Uh-huh.
So I played around with the idea of switching it to third person, but that almost didn't feel right for the book. And I had a partner who suggested second, and I'm like, that's weird, but let me try a couple chapters.
It's
And I really liked it. And then knowing where the book ended and how it ended and what I could do with that POV switch, um, it was like, yeah, I need to do it this way. So yeah, I'm glad it worked.
I thought it was really cool to read the whole story in second person. We'll get into
Mhm.
spoilers soon, I think, because we're coming up to
Mhm.
that point. But God, the ending hit me like a brick. Well, I'll save that for when we get to it.
Okay.
Talking of the internal world of Sepik that you're talking about there,
Hmm.
it's funny because the next note that I've made is I love the way you dive into the internal world. And it
Hmm.
tackles a lot of really raw stuff, like Ryan was saying. I mean, suicide's a bit of a pet issue for me. Just there's a phrase, I copied a quote out of it that said, I'll do it after dad's gone, which I thought was one of the most horribly
Right.
real feeling things that I had read in a long time. That
Right.
hit me. Because I've heard people talk like that.
Hmm.
And I thought it was brave, at least, but I always appreciate when an author just kind of takes the safety catch off.
Hmm.
Was it a conscious thing? Did you deliberately
Well,
go
our
harder than you might
our
have?
main character does suffer from a lot of mental disorders, including
Mhm.
depression and just this kind of feeling out of place, which I is the theme of the whole book.
Yep.
Um, um, and so he's on a lot of prescribed medications, some of them justifiably, some of them maybe not.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to play with that idea of how and I don't I'm not too familiar with that world or that kind of like um being on a lot of medications and what it does to a person. So I did a lot of research
Yeah.
and yeah, it all just adds up to just kind of do I really know what this character is telling me or what he's feeling? Is it true to the book? Is it true to the character? Is it
Mhm.
all leading to something bigger? So it's all just like building blocks to who this character is, and I think that disorientation of all the medication he's on, it
Yeah.
just paid off for the bigger picture. Yeah.
Disorientation's the perfect word.
Hmm.
Incidentally, the next thing that I'd written in my notes was the sense of losing oneself, the face blindness,
Hmm.
strange little synchronicities. I'm a sucker for synchronicities in real life and in writing. They all
Right.
played into put me into a kind of mental fugue, as if
Hmm.
I'm losing my mind a little while I'm reading it.
Hmm.
I actually wrote later on, this is a psychotic break in novel format.
Okay.
And then later on, further, I wrote, am I on shrooms? Reading that. It
I
felt
can't answer
very
that one.
I can,
statistically
unfortunately.
probable. Especially when we get into Trepanier's the third,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
man, you sent me to Google. I wanted to know
Yeah,
if
no,
that was a real book.
I googled it as well to double check, like because
Hmm.
you created a world within a world that was accurate and believable enough that had us googling to see what book is this, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that renders and that just really stands above like what you've been doing with the story because it's again it's real,
Yeah,
and
and I think when I had done that promotional artwork for
oh yeah,
the
the little note.
release, and I said, I think I want to include the cover of this French book that he finds on the
Yeah.
subway. And you had said, well, I don't think we have copyright to like show other book cover. And I said, well, it wasn't a real book, Ryan, but
But the
um,
follow-up, there were two concerns, was copyright and also my bigger concern was I didn't want to just feel like you were advertising a book within a book.
sure.
Like that was I didn't want readers to be like, "Oh, I have to go buy this now." Like
Hmm. Yeah, no, he so there's a scene where he finds a book on the subway and he just starts
Mhm.
reading it, and it's I state that it's a French novel that's been translated into English
Mhm.
back in the 70s, I think.
Mhm.
Um, really poorly translated into English. So there's excerpts from the book that just I've had a lot of editors come at me and go, you need to like what's going on with this
Mhm.
sentence here? But I'm like, that's totally intentional. It's supposed to be really bad English. So I did polish it up in places, but I did want to leave a little bit of it as poorly written. But nevertheless, this is a book that he finds on the subway. He starts reading it, and it strangely just mirrors what has been going on in the main character's life, and also the directions that he starts taking in his own stories. So I love that kind of feeling of duality and like a
Yeah.
book within a book and metafiction. So.
Well, how did you stay, for lack of a better word, how do you stay organized through all of that? Because I feel like it's hard enough to stay organized writing one book, let alone having the subconscious layer as well.
It was a test of knowing how much to write of this fake book
Mhm.
because I had dreams of just like pages and pages of just this book that he's reading, but I had to be a bit more choosier with it and just have smaller excerpts, but then nothing too random either. It had to really tie into where we were in the story currently.
Mm.
And so nothing, like I said, nothing was unintentional in this book. So when you're reading an excerpt from the third, which is the fake book he's reading, it does tie into whether you realize it or not right away, it ties into what's going on currently in the book or where it's about to go, like in the next chapter.
I'm really glad that you went into that because that answers several of the questions that I had.
Hmm.
Firstly, about writing a bad translation deliberately, and then
Right.
about the duality that you
Hmm.
mentioned.
Hmm.
I'd noticed it at first, I think, with three and the,
Yep. Yep.
which are used in the way that people mishear each other all the time, like
Hmm.
deliberately, not deliberately, but you've obviously made it deliberate that they mishear what each other says. They're
Yep.
almost talking past each other at point. I've written in capital letters, it's insert a swear word here, Kafka.
Hmm.
It feels like, I don't know if you're a fan of Kafka's work, but
I'm not, but I'm familiar with it.
Mhm.
it's got that. It's almost, it's like Twin Peaks or something. It's got
Hmm.
that otherworldliness, that dreamlike. I'm interested as well that you said you had dreams about something because this felt like a dream that where everything's not quite right.
Yeah.
And of course, at the end, you find out why that is. But I spent the whole book just being like, "What is he dreaming? Is this real?" And of
Hmm.
course, the questioning of whether or not it's real, the noticing that things around you are pertaining specifically to your life. That's what made me feel like I was having like a psychotic break reading it.
Right.
It was almost like reading an account of schizophrenia or something. Like you
Hmm.
just see connections and everything.
Hmm.
And you're gonna have to forgive me because it's been a few months, not 5 years since I've read it, but it has been a few months since I've read it. And there's the scenes, like speaking of schizophrenia, like when the apartment gets broken into,
Yeah.
Oh my
where
god!
I'm
Yeah.
sitting there just genuinely unsure of
Hmm.
whether or not that actually happened, that didn't
Hmm.
happen. It gets reaffirmed, but even through the reaffirmation, I'm sitting there still kind of on the fence about it. And
Right.
I think that's always really fun as a reader because I feel like a lot of times you kind of through trad publishing too, you kind of get lulled into almost a false sense of security where you know the kind of the direction things will go.
Hmm.
And it was a breath of fresh air going into this, and at times just not having a clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean at times? I was reading the whole book like that.
Well,
Well,
I felt pretty
it
comfortable when they went to the scene where they're at their friend's house and they're all kind of smoking weed and just
mhm,
having a
Oh yeah.
night. I
mhm.
felt pretty confident that was
That
real.
felt all right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
felt casual.
Yeah, that's the break-in scene. If you read the book a second time, you'll see kind of the pathways that are leading up to that. In fact, in
Mhm.
that French book, there's a scene where a cop kind of busts into the main character's
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah.
He's looking for
Where are
drugs,
the
and
drugs? Yeah,
and
yeah.
and then I follow that up with what happens in our main character's life, and he has a intruder in his apartment, but there's reasons behind that. It's like it all has to do with the buzzing of the mosquitoes and
Yeah.
the secret kind of operation that's going on unbeknownst to him at the time. So,
Hmm.
not to give any spoilers away.
No,
Well,
I think we've hit that. I think we've hit that point.
Yeah.
right.
Um,
Spoiler alert: the
Mhm.
veer into sci-fi. Me and
Yeah.
Ryan discussed this at the time because I think when Ryan messaged me, it was like, I don't know how you'll feel about it. It does veer into sci-fi at a
Hmm.
certain point, and I went. So when I got there in my notes, I wrote down basically so that I could send the message to Ryan. It's not
Right.
really suddenly sci-fi because
Right.
it's not a novel about science.
yeah.
It's a
Right.
novel about whether or not this is even real, and if it even matters that
Yeah.
it's real.
Yeah.
The sense of belonging or lack of belonging that it has.
Hmm.
I'm gonna I'm gonna just read basically the theory that I was putting together as we went through this, and you can tell me how this
Okay.
kind of lines up.
Let's go.
I wrote that his life is so horrible. Would you not want to indulge that longing and go somewhere else? But that's what happens in the book, and it goes terribly. And is it Tristan in the third? Also, by the way, the twins, him being the third, I wrote in capital letters. What does it mean? It
Hmm.
ends
Hmm.
horribly for them. It also wrote, "Is his therapist the man in the animal suit?"
Hmm.
And then the sense of not belonging. I'm trying to put myself back where I was when like the revelation comes out, but the black holes and everything, and like he's this one in a
Right,
million black hole baby. He's the
right,
chosen one. He's just the chosen one for the wrong place. Like,
right. Yeah.
was was that what you were going for? Is that he's won the lottery in terms of like the odds of him existing at all? He's just ended up in exactly the wrong place. Like it's the unluckiest
Yes.
thing that could have happened to anyone.
So I knew right from the start what I wanted the twist to be, and it does involve parallel worlds and I guess multiverse if you want to go that way. Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm not a scientist by any means, and I'm not even a sci-fi reader in general.
Mhm.
So I did some research as to, well, if there is a parallel world, how could that be? And the most common theory I found related to black holes. And if a black hole kind of imploded on itself, then it could create this sort of alternate world. Basically, though, it takes some time. If a black hole was to implode, it would take tens of thousands of years before this kind of effect hit everything else. So in the book, it happens 10,000 years ago, I believe, and then it hits New York City the second that this character is born, and kind of flips him with into the alternate world, and they get mixed up, and then the fun starts. So
This is
Yeah, the reason that you feel like you don't belong is because you don't. You're not supposed to be here.
right, yeah. So the main idea. I've always pitched it as you ever get that feeling like you don't belong where you are. Everybody
Hmm.
has. So I thought if I could just take that literally and like, yeah, this guy doesn't belong where he is. And how do you how do you realize that? And how do you get to the truth of it and fix it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the novel for me really it was already a page turner. I already couldn't put it down, but I
Hmm.
was tearing through this. See when it gets to that
Hmm.
realization and starts trying to do something about it. I was
Yeah.
so excited to see, and I was so certain because of the tone of the novel that it
Right.
was going to end badly, like it does in the third. I was like, it's going to go terribly. It's going to go horribly wrong. Is the Abby's going to die instead. It's going to be. It's
Hmm.
going to get murdered. It's going to get framed or something. And to then pull that, just that last, and oh god, like I'm sure that you deliberately made it just a little shorter than it might have been otherwise. That
I
final
think so.
scene,
Yeah. Yeah.
because when I got there, I had this immense craving, like a feeling in my chest for just like,
Mhm.
oh, please just tell me it ends happily. Like, please give the man
Yeah,
his
you feel
cornfield.
you feel you feel it building up because I think like we said earlier, everything that it was basically a book about Murphy's Law when it came
Hmm.
to poor
Yeah.
Seppi. Like anything that could have gone wrong just did throughout
Hmm.
the story. And then even his relationships, and forgive me, I forget the name, but his
With Abby.
colleague, no, the one he
Oh,
works
the other one.
with,
Yeah.
as a theater production and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, right. Bester.
Bester. It
Yeah.
The
seems like
one. Yep.
there's cool
Hmm.
things going on to him, and like you almost
Hmm.
see this. I kind of saw Bester and himself as the twins of like, oh,
Hmm.
what if he was in his shoes and vice versa. But yeah, to Steve's point, I was hoping for a happy ending for this guy because the guy just needed something. But based on the direction of the book, it would not have shocked me the slightest if it just ended in the most harrowing of ways.
Well, I hope there is some relief there.
Oh,
It
Yeah.
was genuine, like full body relief. I could have cried when I got to the end. I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like a big storm cloud had lifted, which I guess is the whole. It's like the
Hmm.
punchline, it's the payoff for
Hmm.
the whole novel. You've went through it all to get there.
Yeah. I love books like that. I love books that
Yeah,
take their time to just get to a massive payoff for the reader. And I stick with books whether I'm enjoying them or not, because I'm always
yeah,
hoping for that kind of hit at the end.
mhm.
yeah,
So I really wanted to write something like that.
Well, and to that point, I remember way back when we were kind of formatting this and put it together.
Hmm.
You reformatted it to shorten it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like didn't change the text. It's like
Hmm.
for context. Just edited the margins and this and that. So this is a bit of a longer story by our standards, and I think it's to that
Yeah.
point, like it lets you ruminate in it.
Hmm.
This isn't a story that you finish in one sitting. I guess some people do, but this is very much a story that like you might read it quickly, but it's gonna linger. It's gonna stick with
Hmm.
you. You're gonna have to
Hmm.
process it. Like whether you're talking about the heavy topics, whether you're just trying to figure
Mhm.
out what exactly is going on, whether like, sometimes books build up and like you just need to put them down for a second and like let yourself
Yeah.
breathe. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think all of that plays such a big role in the reading experience. And it's crazy to see how little things like formatting or little things
Yeah.
like yeah, just how it plays a role in the grand scheme of things. Because like you said, everything's deliberate and it slowly
Yeah. There's
makes its way to that flip.
There's a couple of little scenes in there that I think if I went back and re-edited the book, I could trim another 5 pages or so of
Mm.
just scenes that maybe were just in there to be a little bit goofy
Mhm.
and now that I've matured a bit as a writer too, they don't have that payoff for me. I think there's a scene where they go and grab some Slurpees, um,
Oh yeah.
which I'm like I don't know if that needed to be in there, but
Well,
yeah.
it's also it's one of those things where obviously you evolve as both a reader and a writer as time goes
Hmm.
on. But I
Hmm.
remember this was an author we featured ages back, Phil Williams. We featured
Hmm.
Wixon's Day by him, and it was the first story he wrote, and it was
Hmm.
by far the rawest from like
Okay.
an emotional perspective of any of the stories that he had since written. And he said it was really interesting to go back and see how much he has changed as an author throughout that whole process. Because yeah, you
Yeah.
become more refined in this and that, but sometimes those elements of unrefinedness play a huge role. Like it could just be,
Mhm.
we've all gone to school and you have the literature teacher that's saying the curtains are blue because of it highlights his
Right.
depression and da da da.
Right.
And yeah, maybe that's what it was 30 years on, but in the moment, curtains were blue.
It was just blue. Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
always found that fascinating. Um, uh, just looking at other authors' works and talking about it and presuming what one thing meant when, the author's not present to answer these questions,
Mhm.
and they could have just been blue curtains, right?
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
See, they didn't have the opportunity to get the author on for a Zoom interview.
No, they
Yeah.
didn't. What
Yeah.
were they doing in the 1800s and the 1900s? Those goons.
I'd have
Uh,
been sending telegrams, man. I didn't ask them.
we've got, I'm checking the timer. We've got 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, unfortunately. One of the quick questions I wanted to ask is, just so we can get it all out of the way, I'm going to put
Mhm.
a link in the little comment box below with your website and social
Okay.
media for people to follow you. But for people that liked This Never Happened, where would you direct them? So obviously, you've written quite a few stories. Where would you
Mhm.
direct them of your stories to read next?
Um, this was the third book I wrote, and I've written 6 books now and some short stories as well. I kind of pride myself on every book is different. Um, so it's hard to say if you like this, you would love this other book. Um, I have a novella that I put out in 23, I think it was. It was called The Reasons We Had to Meet. And I think it's only about 50 pages, but it's similar in vein to this. And I'm really proud of how the writing turned
Mhm.
out for that. So I mean that's a quick little read for somebody if they wanted a bit more.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean I've written an adult comedy that gets into a little bit more gruesome humor. It's not quite as dark as this or serious, but it's a fun one too. Yeah.
Mm.
I'll be checking them out, man.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
had that it had that thing where when I got to the end of it, I went, I'll read anything this guy's written
Right. Yeah.
just to see how it
Exactly.
compares.
And I think
Because
that's again, it felt like literature. The quality of writing was so high. And I
Well,
thoroughly
thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
Thank you. It means a
Um,
lot.
I also know now that I can trust you to deliver on the promise
Mhm.
of the first couple of chapters. You read the first couple of chapters, you go, oh, this better not end badly,
Yeah.
and you get to the end and it does. On that note, before we run out of time,
Yeah, yeah, 40
the
seconds.
last thing that I wrote was this is a thematic escape room about duality and identity that
Mhm.
respects your intelligence enough to not just tell you what's going on for most of it. So, like Abby holding funerals for herself, or Dad having another identity, his own father not recognizing himself due to cancer,
Mhm.
him losing himself, the VR, the MMORPG with alternate identities and stuff. All the clues are there, but you let us come to our own conclusions. I think that takes great restraint and skill. 10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
On,
you
on
very
on that
much.
note, we got 5 seconds left. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Ryan.
Godspeed,
Uh,
man.
this never happened. Go check it out. Appreciate you
Thanks,
guys. Take
guys.
care.